Welcome to SafetyPal. Today we are going to look at the SWMS function, or the Safe Work Method Statements function. So we, on the left hand side, click My SWMS. I've created a couple of SWMS already, one for the crane, one for an elevated work platform. You can see over here that there's a review button. So the legislation talks about reviewing the controls as jobs change. This is the button that allows you to do that. So you check in the controls. Once you do a review, you can send it to the people that have signed on to the SWMS, and that will ensure that everyone is up to date and in agreement that the controls are still current for the job, or indeed if a new item needed to be added, or a new record, which is the lines within the SWMS, needed to be added, that update would be pushed out to everyone that had signed up to it. You can edit, delete, or copy a SWMS for different jobs, and also to add different people to it. We're going to go ahead and create a new SWMS. We might create a SWMS for formwork. So this is simply the title, tells us the entity, the project that it's for. So if you're not added to any projects just yet, don't worry. Once you're added to projects, they will appear in the drop-down list. These come from your principal contractor and from the enterprise version of SafetyPal. In this case, we have a job here, so we're going to add it. But you can create and add the job at a later date, so that they're sitting there and waiting. Now we have 3 people on this job, so I'm going to go ahead and add Bob to the SWMS. That means that when we update this SWMS, Bob will be alerted on his home page. Let's go back to the home page and show you that in a moment. So I've taken account the Work Health Safety Management Plan. So that's from the principal contractor. So by now you would have sat down with your principal contractor, gone through the job, etc., and ensured that your controls are how they should be for that particular task of formwork. And you would have consulted your personnel that will be working on the job. So by adding Bob, this will get sent to Bob, and that helps with that process. So you can see we've added this title now at the bottom for formwork. Now at the moment, all it is a title associated to a job and a person. What we need to do is add the records. So down here we've got a risk matrix. So after clicking on records, you get another table. You have to add a new record, and the risk matrix below is where you can choose the high, medium, or low, so the likelihood and consequence of each action you're putting in. So by way of example, if we add a new record, you can choose if it's a general hazard, if it's safety and design item, or if it's a high risk item. So we're going to go ahead and choose a high risk item. Now because we've chosen high risk, it has already populated the 17 legislated high risks. So we're going to choose risk of a person falling more than 3 meters. Now the risk is, damage to, or we should really say injury to a person. Now if someone falls more than 3 meters, the likelihood that they will be injured is pretty high, pretty likely, and the consequence could be major. So we're going to choose high, and you pre-select that straight out of the risk matrix by clicking this button, but it actually tells you D4. Go back in there, you can actually match that back up to D4, so you know that that was the high that you chose. Control measure, we're going to use platform ladders only. And the residual risk is going to be probably possible, and if they still fell, it would be major, so it's probably going to drop from a high to a medium. The legislative requirements, this is where you can put the Australian standards that apply, or the OHS legislation that applies, and you can put all those different references in there. order, so you can actually order how you want your swims to appear. Some people prefer to start with setting up all the way through to the steps of their job, so this helps that occur. And email person to notify them about this record /update. So when you're first creating it, you don't need to tick that, but as the job progresses, if there is a change and you need to add an item to your swims, by clicking on this, it will actually appear on, in this case, Bob, who was added to this swim, will appear on his home screen that there's been an update that he needs to be made aware of and sign on to. So let's go ahead and click that. Now you can see the record has been populated here. So there's a high risk item of person falling more than 3 meters. The risk was an injury to that person. The intrinsic risk was high. Control measure was to use platform ladders, and the residual risk was medium. You can go ahead and keep populating all the line items for that swims, and that will populate the swim. And by adding the personnel like we showed earlier, that person will have access to that swim. So if we go back to my swims, you'll see now the 3 swims that have been created. The formwork one, when we want to display the actual swim, we simply click on records, and the record that we just placed in and all other records that you will place in will appear, and that is the swim.